tens of thousands of people have gathered overnight to witness the revelation of a new pope. Cardinal Robert Prevost was greeted with jubilation as he walked out to address the crowd. He's taken the name Pope Leo XIV. Interestingly, he is the first American to be elevated to the role leading the Catholic Church.
The 69-year-old was elected on the fourth vote of cardinals in the Sistine Chapel, with crowds in St Peter's Square erupting into cheers as white smoke billowed from the chapel's makeshift chimney, startling a nearby seagull. Our correspondent Elias Clure was there witnessing it all, and he joins us now. Elias, must have been quite the event to be there for. Just take us through how the day unfolded.
It was extraordinary, James, and it's hard to describe. You can probably get a feel for that the way I'm speaking at the moment. But at about 11 o'clock-ish local time in the morning, this Vatican Square started to fill out. The eyes had been fixed on that makeshift pipe above the Vatican for about a day and a half at that point. And about an hour later, we saw black smoke billow from that chimney. Not unexpected, but there was a feeling amongst the crowd that a bit of disappointment. They were hoping to see some white smoke, but it cleared out again. A few hours later, the crowd swelled. This time, the anticipation was building. There was almost some tension in here, actually. And at about 6:09 p.m, we saw that fabled white smoke billow out of that chimney, and the crowd erupted. It was extraordinary. This outpouring of emotion, profound excitement. People were crying, people were cheering, people didn't know how to react. There were people hugging, singing, Americans chanting, even though they didn't know it was an American Pope yet. It was quite the sight to see. At that point, of course, they didn't know who the Pope was, as I mentioned, so people were trying to figure out who it might have been. It was about an hour between the smoke and the Pope being introduced to the crowd. But while that was all happening, Robert Prevost was being congratulated by the 132 other voting cardinals. He was fitted with his papal robes and taken in to the Room of Tears, which is one of the other ancient rituals here where they're supposedly supposed to feel the weight of responsibility that's been bestowed upon them. And then the moment, as he came out onto that iconic loggia at the St Peter's Basilica and greeted the tens of thousands of people here, he was introduced by the deacon who gave those very famous words, "We have a new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, Cardinal Prevost." It was quite extraordinary. We spoke to many people who couldn't quite believe what they saw. Let's have a listen to them.
Kind of feels like we're part of history today.
Yeah, you're an American here to witness an American Pope, hey?
Yep, we're actually just visiting Rome kind of randomly. We were about 45 minutes away and heard the bells and started running. So this is incredible.
It's a great experience to be here at the very moment that it happened. It's terrific.
Did you have a physical reaction when they?
Yeah, we hugged one another immediately. We were on holidays for a few days and we hugged one another and we were,
Oh, there you go. Elias, what do we know about Pope Leo? Because in a lot of the pre-conclave speculation, he sort of featured, but only at the edges. He wasn't considered a leading contender.
Not at all, and I spoke to many Vatican insiders over the course of the last week or so, and no one had really mentioned his name. There was an expectation that perhaps they'd go back to an Italian priest, perhaps an African priest. We'd heard Cardinal Tagle's name mentioned quite a bit. He would have been the first Asian-born Pope. Sorry, I was saying priest, but it's a Pope, of course. And so it was unexpected, but in terms of what we know about him, well, he's 69 years old. He is a missionary. He moved to Peru, the northern part of the country, when he was 30. For the last couple of years, he served in quite senior roles in the Vatican. He was seen as a close confidant of the late Pope Francis. Conservative on some issues, progressive on others. If you read some biographical material on him, he's described as a moderate, but perhaps leaning more towards the progressive side of the church. But this is seen by many people at the Vatican as continuity, continuing the reforms and perhaps the legacy of Pope Francis. And when he greeted the masses on that balcony, he spoke quite warmly of his predecessor. Let's have a listen.
Dio ci vuole bene. Dio vi ama tutti.
God loves us, loves you all, and evil will not prevail. We are all in God's hands. Therefore, without fear, united hand in hand with God and each other, let us go forward. Help us too, then each other, to build bridges with dialogue, with encounter, uniting us all to be one people, always in peace.
There has been 266 popes since 30 AD, and none of them have been American. Pope Leo XIV is the first. So this phrase gets bandied about a lot in our business, but it's safe to say history has been made today, James.